right, so my topic today is called production or pin versus producer. Now, this is a leadership conversation, so I wanted to preface it with I'm going to be saying things that are pretty direct, but also very real. Is that okay? It's a real conversation. Is that okay? And so I want to tell you how it is, because I believe that if you're mentally prepared for the game, you'll be equipped, you'll be able to play the game effectively, and more importantly, play the game to win. Are we in ACN to win or to lose? Of course. And so here's my story. I got involved in ACN 10 years ago, and it wasn't an easy ride for me. Put it this way, I had a lot of growth to go through in many areas of my life. In fact, today I'm still growing in different areas of my life. But I remember when I first got involved in this business, I kind of had to figure things out for myself and kind of figure out what was a priority in the business, what was important, what to focus on. And initially, like most people, I thought that it was all about hitting team coordinator. That if I could just get to the position of team coordinator, my life would change. How many of us have had conversations like this with ourselves and maybe new IBOs? Has that ever happened? Yeah. So what happened was, for the first year or so, I spent all my time building a position, not building production. And so I did what I had to do to hit team coordinator. I got to the position, 200 points in each line, but I had no momentum. How many of us have ever heard of the person who hits a position but has no momentum? And what ended up happening, I spent the rest of my 90 to 120 days after trying to maintain my position. I was trying to go out there and keep my position because I really didn't have a real business. So at that point, what I quickly realized, even though I had the pin did not equal production. And people get that mistake. If I can just get to TC, the income will be there. If I can just get to RD, the income will be there. Here is truth number one. Pin does not equal production. Production equals the pin. Does that make sense? So what's more important than hitting TC, in my opinion, is being an ETL, maxing out the compensation plan every single month. What's more important than being a regional director with 2 TCs who are not producing is to be a team coordinator that has ETLs maxing out the comp plan every single month, with or without you. Does that make sense so far? So when you begin to change the focus and focus in on what's really important, it's amazing how your business will change, your income will change, the culture of your organization will change. It's all about planting seeds of production, promotions, and payouts. I call it the 3 Ps. And when you are doing those things, you are a producer, not a pin. I'm not interested in people with titles. How many of us know people with titles who aren't in the trenches doing what they should do? And what's scary about that is because they have a pin, they are leading an organization that listens to them. They're edified, they have the title, they come and give their testimonial. And that's a very scary thing because most of those individuals aren't doing the right things. And if they're not doing the right things, they're only going to teach other people how to do what they do, which is what? Not the right things. Then you have an organization that's duplicating out none of the right things. And before you know it, you will have an RD producing like an ETT. Does that make sense so far? Can we agree we have the most talent in any network marketing company here in this room today, yes or no? Can we agree we have the most amazing ownership in ACN, yes or no? So being that we have the best, and I truly believe that each of us are the best, if we can just get focused and committed to doing the right things daily, ACN will become the #1 network marketing company in the history of network marketing. So let's talk about the conversation, because here's what it boils down to. Can we agree at ETT the max out's 3K, ETL 7K, team coordinator 25K, with caps 30K? Does that make sense? The problem is, it's kind of like if you don't have a destination, it's very hard to come up with directions. Does that make sense? See, when you have a GPS system before it tells you where to go, what turns to take, and how long it's going to take, you must tell it first where you want to go. The destination first, direction second. Does that make sense? The problem with most people is they don't have a specific destination. In fact, they do. They call it their why, but let's be real. The why of being financially independent and being wealthy is not something you can shoot for every 30 days. The why is too big, too general. What I do with my organization, I treat it just like football. Can we agree? Everyone wants to win the Super Bowl, but can we agree when it's game time, the only conversation is winning that specific game, not the next game or the game after that. Let's focus on that game that we're in right now. Does that make sense? So every month we're playing a game. If you're a team coordinator, yes, you have an opportunity to make 30K, but we say, you know what? Let's keep it manageable. Let's keep it realistic. Let's keep it doable, where I truly believe the majority of TCs in this room can do this. Even if they have a full-time job, even if they have kids, even if they are busy, I believe this is a goal that anybody and everybody, if committed to doing the right things, can absolutely achieve, and that is a $10,000 a month goal. How many of us could get excited about making 10 grand every single month? Now, hold on. Before you get fired up, let me be specific. I'm talking about in team customer acquisition bonuses. Of course, you have the residual as well, but we're going to focus on the team cabs, and the reason why is because T cabs represent the work you're doing day to day. T cabs represent the production you're bringing in every single month. If you are making 10 grand every single month, can we agree you're doing all the right things every month, yes or no? And so here's the way we break it down. The reason why I like 10K as a destination, because I can create a specific action daily that can lead to a guaranteed result. And so what does it take to do 10,000 a month? It's about 30 qualified team trainers as a TC. Yes or no? Do you know your comp plan? How many qualified team trainers? 30. So if that's the goal, 10K, how do I get there? 30 qualified team trainers. How do I do it? Well, every single day, I must have a goal of hitting one IBO a day, one application a day, one QTT a day, one pre-reg a day. Whether you're full-time or part-time, can we agree one app a day is manageable, yes or no? One QTT a day is doable, yes or no? See, you don't have to do ACN 10 hours a day if you have a specific target and goal. What if you hit one app for the day and it's only 2 o'clock? Good, take the rest of the day off you want. But most of you guys are overachievers. You'll never take a day off, right? But the bottom line is, can we agree, if we can, see, water is everywhere. Once you put water in a bottle, it's organized. If we can take $10,000 a month and say, hey, an app a day, can we agree? Now we can organize the action, yes or no? And that's what it's all about, creating clarity for all your TCs. You have a lot of talent, but the problem is they're spread out. They don't know where to work. They don't know what the focus is. They're like, there's basically shooting, but they have no target to hit. And when you have that, that's what's going to create burnout. So if every day, or if every month the goal is 10K minimum, 10K minimum, 10K minimum, understand that will force them into taking the right actions every single day. They'll be motivated because they'll have a specific target they're going after on a daily basis. Does that make sense, guys? That's the game. Now, here's the other aspect of it. When you begin to talk about results, it requires 100% total responsibility. And this is very important in creating a winning culture. Can you imagine a football team where each player played but no one took responsibility? Could you imagine that if the quarterback always blamed the wide receiver? Or if the coach always blamed the players? Could we agree that there would be no accountability? No accountability means no improvement. Does that make sense? And so part of being a leader is being willing to take on total responsibility. Now, I always go to conventions. One of my biggest pet peeves is I see people with pins that represent leadership, but conversations that sound like something other than. Meaning I'll see a TC that's like, well, because my upline, he's this, he's that, or my upline left to another company, it's very difficult for me. I don't know what I need to do. It's very hard for me to win. Oh, but your team is winning because you're in Florida and it's always sunny. Oh, but we can come up with a story for why we're losing anytime. See, when you want to win, and it's about producing consistent results, you must eliminate every excuse. No sideline this, no upline that, no downline this, no job situation, no weather situation. We can sit here all day and make a bunch of justifications, but if you want to win, there are no excuses. You must be willing to take total responsibility for the result that you produce, good as well as bad, because once you're in control, once you make a decision, take total responsibility, now you have the power to change it as you move forward. Does that make sense? So we got to continue moving forward. Let's continue. Okay, now fundamentals. What do I mean by fundamental skills to play the game? When you're driving a car, can we agree you have to know how to do a couple things in order to drive effectively, right? You got to know how to reverse. You got to know how to turn right, turn left, how to use a signal. So there's certain things that you need to learn in order to drive to take you from point A to point B. I believe in AAC and there's specific skills that people must know. Problem is, people are overloaded with knowledge. You can learn everything all the time. There's so much information out there. But I believe these are the most important fundamental skills that will lead to the 3 Ps: production, promotions, and payouts. Can we agree at the end of the day, isn't that what we want? Yes or no? Yes. And so if we can teach people these skills, how to present effectively. They don't have to be a great presenter, just have to be present effective, meaning people can say yes or no. Does that mean, I'd rather have people say yes or no than I don't know because I'm confused. Does that make sense? Second thing, launching. Launching to produce a result of qualification, right? Knowing how to get people qualified right away, knowing how to enroll people in a PBR, be able to make phone calls, right? Get them out of their comfort zone, being able to close prospects as an IBO, as well as close prospects as customers. I was talking to a gentleman who was an RD. This is a truth conversation. I'm going to have a hard conversation. Is that okay? He was an RD. And I remember how he always used to hit me up. He's no longer with the company, by the way, because he unfortunately didn't learn these skills. And even at RD, he was like, I don't know how to close. Can you please train me on how to close? Can you do a conference call on how to close? I'm like, you're an RD and you don't know how to close? No wonder he left, because he got demoted to ETL. If you're not closing business, you're not growing a business. Does that make sense so far? So don't underestimate the fundamentals. You can't cheat your way to SVP, put it that way. Does that make sense? It'll always catch up. And so you want to embrace the fundamentals, master the fundamentals, because if you master it, you're going to be in control of your results. I don't believe in building a business based on luck. There's a lot of people here like, well, if I just found the right person will blow up and I'm good. I don't like to do it that way. I want to be the right person, because no matter where I go, there it is. I could be in leg 10, and there it is. Be in leg 15, there it is. I'm not sitting there holding on to my one big leg, and then they leave to a different company, I'm dead, crucify me. No. I'm a professional, ladies and gentlemen. LeBron James, no matter where he goes, is LeBron James. Yes or no? No matter what team he's on, LeBron James. Because it's his skill, it's who he is. That's how you got to begin to look at yourself in the game of ACN. You are a player in the game. What is your skill set level? What is your mindset level? What is your commitment level? Because no matter what happens, there you are. You can always create momentum, a master of momentum. Does that make sense, guys? So these are the fundamentals, the skills that lead to production, promotion, and payouts. Now, why is this so important? Because what is the goal? Every single month, if you're a TC, what should your goal be? Let me show you why it's important to master this at TC. I call this the fortune teller. Have you noticed that there's certain organizations where every single TC that pops, or the majority of them, they go from being an ETL, then boom, on the charts? Have you guys ever noticed that? I see it all the time with the XS organization. You just see all the leaders there, it's them because all Asian people, right? It's crazy, dominating. But it's the same thing with the Rockstar organization. You see their RVPs pop, and they're a top RD, and all of a sudden, boom, pop RD, RVP, boom, top 5 RVP. And if you were to go to the TC, you'll see their TCs on the charts. There's a connection there. There's a culture established. That's why Super Bowl winning teams, they don't just win one game, they win consistently that led to the Super Bowl, which is the big win. Are you guys with me so far? So I believe how you perform at TC is a mindset, it's a skill set, but that mindset and skill set will then carry over to RD and then RVP. But it gets scary, because let me explain why. Here's the benefit. If you master the game, 30 qualified team trainers, you're making $10K a month. Yes or no? But here's the way it works. If you're doing $10K a month, can we agree the 30 qualified has to happen underneath ETLs and ETTs, yes or no? So if you're doing 30 qualified, you're making money. Are there going to be ETLs and ETTs making money, yes or no? Of course there are. In fact, if you were to do the math, you probably have an ETL, generate between $3,000 to $5,000, depending on how much production went in there. An ETT generating a few $1,000s. You would have promoted a couple ETTs, and that's obviously a good culture to have, yes or no? And so what happens is, in order for you to do 30 qualified, you have to do the right things. You have to be doing launches. You have to get people qualified. So it's forcing you to do the right activity, the 3 Ps. So if you're doing that at TC, underneath an ETL, who has ETTs, and if you're in that organization doing the work, you are establishing a culture of production, promotion, and payouts with your ETLs and your ETTs. What do you think is going to happen to those ETLs as they mature into business? If it's all they know, it's all they'll do, and if it's all they'll do, it's all they'll do with their team. Does that make sense, guys? So your ETLs are going to already be operating with the proper mindset, with the proper skill set, because they see you doing 30 qualified in their group. Tell me, if they're showing up to all the launches, showing up to the PBRs, are they experiencing momentum, yes or no? Of course. And then what happens is, it's going to be a natural process, because they've mastered the game. They're out there presenting, launching, enrolling, and promoting events. They're going to hit team coordinator, but they're not going to go from a non-producing ETL to a non-producing team coordinator. They're going to go from a producing ETL. All that changes is the pin, but all the activity is the same, because they're already doing the activity of a top producer. So the pin changes, the income doubles. Does that make sense so far? Because you establish that culture while they're an ETL and an ETT. That's why it's important for you to be that TC, doing 30 qualified with the right people, because you're cultivating a culture, right? Now what happens is you hit RD, and what's going to happen is, as you pop RD, what does that really mean? You have TCs in your group, yes or no? And here's the way it works. If you've established a culture of 30 qualified, so here you go, you're in RD, right? You have your TC over here. I have the worst handwriting, okay, whatever, but you guys can kind of see what that says, right? What do these guys goal? 30 qualified, 30 qualified. Are they making money, yes or no? And of course, what are you going to do? You're going to have your third leg going, and you're the TC. Now here's where you don't get a mistake. A lot of people hit RD, they think they've arrived. Okay, I'm chilling, leveraged income for life. I call you the assistant coach, not the head coach. Why? Because an assistant coaches What do assistant coaches do? They assist. You're going to assist the TCs in hitting their goals, but you're still going to be in the game. You're still a captain of the team in leg 3 and leg 4 doing what you got to do to produce 30 qualified. Does that make sense? You're always staying relevant because you're always in the trenches. You're always leading by example because you're an RD. You are an assistant coach. And so what happens is if you're an RD and you have your TCs chasing 30, you establish that culture, you'll be an RD doing 100, you qualify at 75, you're doing 30 qualified TC. What's that paycheck like? $26,000? Mike, what is it? 30 G's? Yeah, $30,000 at RD. Is that a good goal, yes or no? How many of you guys could get excited about hitting RD if that was the case? But it gets bigger than that because now what your team coordinators are doing 30 qualified, they're doing the work, an app a day, QTD day, it's a rhythm, it's a rhythm, it's a rhythm. They start popping their TCs because they're doing the same thing with their ETLs. And before you know it, you're going to be an RVP with TCs who are cranking, who are all pursuing a 10 grand a month paycheck, an app a day. Can you imagine if every TC, in your organization had that mindset where you could be in this business? You'd be like the Mazers. Rock starring all day for 5 years, 6 years straight at number 1. Does that make sense? You'll hit RVP and you'll be blowing this business up, top of the charts, making multiple 6 figures, and then truly experiencing what the AC Income Plan is all about. But in order to experience that payoff at RVP, you must begin to process and create that culture of the 3 Ps at TC. Don't believe that the pin's going to change your production, but production 100% will change the pin. Now, the next aspect is if you are not taking this on, here's where most people are, and this is where I was for a good year and a half in my business. Trust me, I was not a superstar for many years. It was very difficult, but what was difficult was the fact that I wasn't getting this conversation. Good news for you is that you're having this conversation now, so you don't have to waste 2 years hitting your head against the wall. Does that make sense? So what happens is a lot of people are average producers, not even average, because they have no focus. It is, for them, a good month is like, it's a lucky situation. Oh my goodness, thank goodness I had a good month. Every month is crossing their fingers. They open a fortune cookie, they do a prayer, and they hope they're going to have a good month. If I get hope, forget about hope. You create it, right? But let's just say, if you're a 10 rep a month TC, can we agree if you're doing 10 qualified as a TC, what's that, 2 grand? Yes or no? But here's the problem with the 10. That means your ETLs and ETTs, at most, have 10 coming in their group. Can we agree it's a little different than having 30 come in, yes or no? So you have ETLs, and what they're experiencing is maybe 5 to 10 IBOs a month. So that's a 500, what's a TCAP for 5 ETL? I don't know what that is, $500? We don't pay attention to the lower thresholds, you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm just kidding. Anyhow, so you have ETLs that are not really cranking. They're making a few $100 a month. Can we agree that's not inspiring? And if they're not inspired, they're not going to go hard the next month. I believe the effort put in the following month is based on the income they made the previous month. But the long-term vision, yeah, that's great, that's cute. But you know what? I keep it real. Can we agree if your ETO got a check for 5 grand, they're going to show up more often? Are they going to show? They're going to be doing more PBRs, more committed. When they get a taste of it, they want more. Does that make sense? So important to understand. But if you do 10, your ETLs will do at most 10. So you have an organization now, a culture of less people making money, less promotions, right? You'll eventually, if you stay in long enough, you'll inch your way, ease your way, fall into RD by default, because it's so simple now with 3 points, anybody could, hit TC, right? So RD now, you're an RD, but here's the problem. You're an RD with 2 TCs, but if all you knew how to do was 10 qualified, how are you going to teach them how to do 30 qualified? You can't teach what you don't know. The problem is you got a pin that says you know. So they believe what you do is right, and they begin to take it on and duplicate it and say, this is how to do it. So now you're duplicating bad culture, pin, no production. And you wonder why there's certain people that aren't hitting the charts. Now, I said this is going to hurt some people's feelings. But my goal is not to hurt your feelings. My goal is to make you aware, because these are things I had to realize because I was sitting at every convention, 5, 6, 7 years, not on the charts. Sitting there seeing everybody walk the stage. Sitting there like, why not me? When is my group going to do it? I don't want that for you guys. They should have so much recognition that you're going to have to do 2 weekends in a row. 1 weekend just for top producers, which is all of us here, right? The next week in training because they can't fit it all in 1 weekend. So the bottom line is you're an RD, you got these guys doing 10, you're doing 10, you only know how to do 10, so you'll do 10, so at most you're doing 30 qualified. What's 30 qualified at RD? With your TC open, what's that? 5 grand, 6 grand, 7 grand? How much? 5 grand. And that's a scary place because for some people that's a lot of money for you, and you're comfortable with that. See, it's not about chasing, it's not about that. It's about creating a culture, right? And then eventually you hit RVP. There's a lot of RVPs that don't even do 100 reality check. Does that make sense? But the reason why is not because they're not good people. It's just because they have duplicated a non-producing culture. So hit RVP doing 80 reps a month. You'll make money. You'll have your residuals. It's great. But I don't know about you guys. There's 2 types of builders here. You don't have to be or have the mindset of being on the charts and being a producer. But if that's what you want, this is what it's going to take. Does that make sense, guys? But here's where the majority of people are. We call it the vicious circle. Meaning they'll have one good month, and then they have a not so good month, and then they have a bad month, and then they have a decent month, and they have a good month, and then a not so good month. Have you guys ever experienced the ups and downs of momentum? It's so funny because people say momentum is never consistent. Well, how about there's some teams here who've been consistent for 5 years at number one? My team has been consistently top 5 since 2010. So there's some truth that it's possible to create consistent momentum. Does that make sense so far? And so what happens is if you understand a vicious circle, what's missing there is a couple skill sets, but more importantly, where to put your time and effort. And we're going to clarify all of this so that way you're never stuck in a vicious circle. Does that make sense so far? Is this helping out? Good. Okay, so now the first step is you got to know where you're at. Where are you at? Where are you starting in this equation? Are you crawling, walking, or running? I had to be in a crawl stage like 10 times in my career. Every time I start a new line, I'm in the crawl stage. So everybody has 3 lines here at least, and each of your 3 lines are in one of 3 momentum stages, crawling, walking, or running. Now, crawl stage is where there's no activity happening, no new blood. So you, my friend, must be in personal phase 1. Constant recruiting, talking to people, taprooting, pre-launching people. Pre-launching meaning launching people who don't have the money. Because you'll find that what's more important in the $4.99 is someone's contacts. Does that make sense? So when you have to create something, you are going to grind. You're not counting results here because there are none. You're just focusing on the right actions because the right actions will always lead to the results. 21 days, all-out massive action, phase 1, one-on-ones, PBRs, pre-launches, taprooting, looking for what we call an NPOM. I'll explain that in a second. Once you establish momentum, now you're walking because now you have a PBR business. There's some people here who don't have a PBR business. You don't have PBRs happening on a day-to-day basis. So you're in crawl stage. Your goal is to create momentum so you can be in a what? PBR business. A walk stage, 6:30, 8:30. 6:30, 8:30. And you're doing it. You could probably get an app a day doing that, no problem. But the next phase is running. When you're running, that means you have ETLs duplicating. You have ETTs playing the game with you. You have maybe other TCs involved, and they're all doing PBRs without you. So every night's a PBR blitz. Can we agree there's teams here that have hundreds of PBRs a night going on, yes or no? But understand, it all started crawling first. But if we know what we're working towards, we'll be able to go and hit that target. Are you with me so far? Now, an NPOM, very important. This is what determines where you work. See, a lot of people, have this misconception of I have somebody who's committed, that's where I'm going to work. Yeah, okay, you can do that. I have somebody with contacts, this is where I'm going to work. Yeah, you can do that. But I truly like to, make it really specific. That is my Asian side that comes out, the urchinness, right? An NPOM, new possibility of momentum. A new possibility. Did you guys get that? If you're always looking for the NPOM, that means you're always tapping into the next momentum wave. See, an NPOM is somebody that has contacts, influence, but the key is they're willing to play. How many of us know people who have contacts and influence, but they're not willing to have a PBR? Or they're not willing to invite people the right way, or they're not willing to get qualified, or they're not willing to go to a Saturday training, or they're not willing to go to a national convention. Does that ever happen, yes or no? So you may get some people out of them, but don't count on that person as being a leader. Dave Merriman might not like this. See, they're what you call a T-cab, not a team leader. Does that make sense? They're all laughing. Okay, good. So the bottom line is you need a combination of both. There is such a thing as somebody who's also willing to play, and they put a lot of people in front of people, no one signs up. Can we agree that's not an NPOM? See, they could play, but we know for this month, we may not be able to do 30 qualified through that individual. I'm looking to win this month. Does that make sense? And as a team coordinator, you got to be like water. Go where the least resistance is. Are you with me so far? You are looking for an NPOM. Now, what happens is an NPOM is determined, the key phrase here, after the first PBR. Everybody looks good in the beginning, honeymoon stage. But can we agree the honeymoon stage goes away eventually, right? But if they still look good after the honeymoon stage, that's how you know it's the real deal, right? And so the NPOM before, that you launch them, they got qualified on the spot, they made invitation calls, they're fired, no one showed up to the PBR, not an NPOM. So you don't get excited about anybody till after they've given you a reason to. I get excited about somebody, well, really never, but I determine that they're an NPOM after the PBR. If they sign up 2 or more people after that PBR, that's what I'm looking for. That's going to be my new possibility momentum, which is what? Production, promotions, and payouts. If I create those 3 things, am I going to create momentum, yes or no? Of course. And so that's determined after the PBR. Now, here's the way it works for a lot of people. See, it's all about the 3 Ps. You can do it slow, you can do it fast. So here's a majority of people in the room today, and at the end, I'll actually call somebody up, and I'm going to map out your organization as far as where you should work and how to do 30 qualify over the next 30 days, okay? But here's how it works. Most of us have 3 lines, and we're trying to manage every line because we have people there. People who need us, people who are brand new, people who are motivated, committed, whatever. And so as an example, say leg 1, you got your group there, you have 2 lines underneath the first guy. The first guy may not even be here today. So that means you're carrying the burden of their organization. So you automatically just adopted 2 new lines. Does that make sense? Orphans, because the leader's not there, right? So you're the leader. So you have to take care of the 2 people. You can't just leave them, right? Well, you're a bad parent, right? Then you got the second line. Maybe he was cranking, right? Got my 3 legs, boom, end palm for like a month. And then the lines continue to grow, and then maybe, cut a long story short, you are such a good helping person, you're a servant leader, you're going to start working all 3 of their lines because it's all the new people there. So now you find yourself working in 5 additional lines. And then the last line, maybe you guys have a weak organization, so you've been phase 1 recruiting, you got inspired after the convention, you piqued the taxi cab driver, he decided to sign up, even though you're all the way in Canada, he's over here. So now you're like, well, I got to take care of my people in North Carolina. Right? I got to keep my position solid. So now you're stretched out all the way here in North Carolina over the phone doing webinars, trying to travel. So you spread yourself out so thin. And what happens is, there's a very famous quote by Mr. Sun Tzu. He says, an army everywhere is an army nowhere. So in ACN, I say working everywhere equals momentum nowhere. What do I mean by this? If you were to do 10 qualified trainers between all 3 lines, I already did the math. The average amount of team trainers, if we were to average it out equal, would be 2.5 IBOs per line. Or 3 IBOs per line. Does that make sense? And what happens is, if you look at that, the ETL that does the 3 makes $200, ETT makes $100, and then maybe one person goes ETT. But if we were to take all that 10 qualified team trainers and just do it in one organization, that means your ETL would do 10, 1,500, your ETT would do 1,500, and then you have 3 ETTs that have a potential of doing 20-point promotions and doing what? Making $1,000 each. So you have 5 people all making comma checks. You have promotions. Same work, but because you did it in one area, you're going to create an explosion of momentum. Do you see the difference there, yes or no? So how do you know where to focus? How do you know what organization to go into? Because some of us here have a hard time doing this because you like to work where you're needed. Does that make sense? Well, I got to work here. There's nobody here. I got to go. This person's calling me. I got to go there. You're like a nomad being pulled in all these different directions. And some of you guys want to work where it's convenient, meaning you're my friends. I like them. I'm edified here. This is cool. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to change the way we look at this. This is a business. This is not social hour. Does that make sense? You may have people with, that are your close friends and even family members that are demanding you work with them. But I hate to say this. Sometimes you got to take a step back to kind of focus in on where you need to be in order for you to win. Does that make sense so far? Very important. So here's how it should go down. Look at your organization as it is. ETLs, ETTs, everywhere you got, right? Now, we can agree you have different leaders at different levels in momentum. So here's what happens with a lot of people. You have a person with an ETL pin, an ETT pin, and you're like, great, these are leaders, right? And they go out there and produce. Well, yes and no. Depends on what's going on. Let's say they're ETT and their group, the new people they have, are on vacation. Can we agree? There's no new possibilities there if people are on vacation, yes or no? You can't expect to do 10K a month or this month off that one organization. Can we agree? See, every month, I have all my leaders before the beginning of the month identify where they're going to work. So the whole 30 days, they already have their victim picked out, and they're going to go ham. Oh, you guys don't know what ham means. Never mind. They're going to go hard, okay? Yeah. Now, the third organization, let's say you have an ETT, and by the way, a farm system, what that really means is they're a leader, they're ETL, ETT, they're in the game, but they're just not ready to play this month. Does that make sense? Keep them in the loop, but you're not going to focus a lot of your time. I call it the 80-20 rule, Pareto's principle. You're going to put 80% of your time where the momentum's at, 20% of your time where there's no momentum, just to maintain and cultivate and develop. So when their season does come, you can get in there and run with them, but they'll have the skill set to carry with you. Does that make sense? Now, the next organization, if you have people doing nothing, well, obviously you're not going to sit there and try to motivate and inspire them. Put them in a farm system. Have them attend Saturdays, regionals, promote them to leaderships. Let the event carry them. We say network marketing because it's a net that'll work if you keep people plugged into it. So eventually you'll have people who are not in momentum today, but if they stay plugged in consistently, before you know it, they might get inspired. Something happens in their life. They end up peaking somebody, like a Mark Isaac, blows up, and before you know it, they went from being on the bench to being in the field, being a nobody, now being a superstar. Does that make sense so far? Now, the middle phase, here's what you're really looking for. Let's say you have your middle organization, ETT comes in, whatever. They recruited a guy named Joe. Joe has his first PBR, boom, 3 join. Automatically, NPOM, right? New possibility, momentum. That's where you're gonna target in for that month. And here's the key now. Here's where everyone makes a mistake. They go in alone. See, the key is to incorporate your ETTs and your ETL in the mix. I call it your power circle. In our group, we call it Dynasty Money Team. These are the people that we're going to go make money this month. My goal now is to get the ETT involved because he's going to get paid. If there's money on the table, should I expect him to show up? If he doesn't show up, can we agree he is not a player? So you're already thinking about, I'm not going to count on him. Your ETL has a $7,000 opportunity this month. Can we agree, if you know that, what's your name, sir? Jason. If Jason's my ETL, I'm like, Jason, we have Melissa in the group. We're going to blow her up. She's already almost an ETT. Our goal this month is to make $7,000 for you. How does that sound? Are you ready to play that game? And we got to be committed. We got to be doing at least 30 to 40 PBRs this month to make it happen. Are you willing to play the game with me? I'll help you do it. We'll do it together. But I want to know if you're in it to win it with me. So I'm getting his buy-in the month ahead. Does that make sense? So that whole month, we're there together. We're getting it done. And so what ends up happening, we incorporate them with the process. He can help out with PBRs. He can help out with launches. I'm doing the majority of the stuff with the key players, but I'll have him facilitate the small stuff. Maybe facilitate putting in the services with the new IBL. Facilitate getting the PBR set up. Facilitate, getting customer surveys filled out and doing three-way calls. I'm going to have him do the other stuff, and I'm going to focus on the momentum stuff. Does that make sense? The problem is some of us get caught up on all the small details, taking us away from what really makes us the money, which is more PBRs. So you're going to begin to incorporate them. So you're a team coordinator, which means you should be coordinating your team. How about that one? Right? And so what we need to understand is that this is the most powerful opportunity because not only are you going to be able to generate income for everybody involved, but now you're going to be able to duplicate the culture of winning, duplicate the culture of the 3 Ps. Are you guys with me so far? So that team is now in season. And just so you know, your goal, here's your eventual goal. If you did it 3 months in a row with that group, this is what's so great about being a TC. If I took Jason and for 3 months in a row, I pounded this concept out in one line, bam, 30 qualified, 30 qualified, 30 qualified, could we agree after a month and a half, 2 months, he's going to begin to pick up on the way it's done? See, you don't teach momentum, you have people experience it with you. Just like you can't tell me what the color, describe the color green. Describe the taste of chocolate. You can't. It's something you have to experience in order to understand. Does that make sense? I believe momentum is the same exact thing. You can't teach top producing. You have to have that person experience top producing to know what it is, right? And so what ends up happening is they begin to experience that 2 months in, 3 months in. Guess what? All he knows is 30 qualified. All he knows is an app a day, a QTT a day. And now you have, militant ETLs going out there dominating the game. They hit TC, and automatically they're 10,000 a month TC. Automatically that creates massive morale. Why? Because they hit TC, they're making money. They're making money. Guess what? Things begin to change. The way they dress changes. Their confidence changes. Their car changes. And as things begin to change, that's just going to continue to push the culture forward. Does that make sense so far? Wouldn't it be great if everybody that got in and started making money at TC was able to begin to enhance their lifestyle immediately within 30 to 60 days? Could you imagine if everyone hit TC in 30, 60, 90 days, got a brand new car, paid off their debt, was able to start, looking successful now? Does that make sense? That would be huge for a lot, inspiring. So here's the way it's going to actually work out. So you figure out who your starting lineup is, your ETL, your ETT in the mix, and your NPOM Joe. You're going to be doing everything with Joe. Joe is your new best friend. You're not going to say, hey, Mary, go do the PBR. Oh, hey, Mary, I'm kind of busy, so I need you to do the launch. No, you are 100% responsible for everything that happens under Joe. The key is this is in one line. So Mary has 2 other lines. Her other lines are not your responsibility. You're going to facilitate, but you're not going to take time away from Joe in order to work her other 2 lines. We call it one line in a line. Does that make sense so far? And so what you're going to do is you're going to incorporate them in the process. The goal is to get the first string player ETL, 7K, ETT, 3K, NPOM. What's your goal? Promotion, TCAB, whatever we got to do, create that story. But the whole purpose of Joe, you create that story to then do what? Do it again with somebody else. Don't create one story. Here's some teams. I popped an ETT. He did it in 2 days. And I'm like, when was this? Oh, back in 2006. He set a record, and you guys are telling stories like it's the greatest hits of the 90s. Does that make sense? Like, we need to have new stories like every single week. And NPOM should only be an NPOM for about a week. Then after that, you find the next NPOM. It's like taproting, but at a leadership level. Does that make sense? And so what are you going to do with Joe? If he decides to embrace the process, become an ETT, right? Starts making money, whatever, the goal is he gets the ETT. Now you want to incorporate him in the process. If we find an NPOM underneath Joe, now guess what? Now Joe's your player. Because he has the NPOM. Wherever the NPOM is, that's where you're going to go. So you're going to incorporate Joe into the mix. Now what's going to happen to Bob? Can we agree if he doesn't hit ETL, then he's going to have to go, unfortunately, he's going to be cut off by Joe, yes or no? And have an ETT and an ETT and have them spending all his time working on the ETT, that's not really a wise thing to do. You want to have Bob now go start working in his other lines. Are you with me? Have him go hit ETL. Don't you go do it for him, have him go do it himself, because when he does it himself, he'll master how to do it. Does that make sense? So if he makes the cut to ETL, then he becomes your player that's gonna go for 7K. If he doesn't hit ETL, then it's all about Mary. Mary's the one you're gonna count on. Does that make sense? People have to make the cut every single month. Is this making sense, guys? Very good. Now, why are qualifications so important? Because qualifications is what triggers everything. You can produce, but if you don't qualify the production, then that leads to no promotions and no payouts. A lot of us here have people going into our business, but maybe if you just got better qualification, you would have a growth in your organization. Okay, and so what I mean is that here's how I tell my group when qualifications are done. I call this like the finish line effect, meaning when someone's running really hard, right before the race is done, can we agree most people are trying to push to win, right? Because they're almost done. The problem is when people finish the last couple meters in the race, right? They give it all they got, and then they cross that finish line, and then they're like, done. That's the problem with the month, because people go hard all 30 days. Oh, the 31st is the end of the month. They run hard, 31st day, and they hit the 31st day, and they're like, oh, done. But they don't realize they're not done because the qualifications aren't done. Can you imagine thinking the race was done, and you're like, no, sorry, you still got another couple meters to run. You're like, what? And then you're like, oh, geez, I'm done. Does that make sense? So the problem is, the month does not end on the 31st. The month ends on the 10th of every month. So last month, January, for my group, I'll tell you my numbers. We did over 500 IBOs. We already basically, obviously we did 500. We didn't qualify 500, but we hit 250 within the first 11 days of February. So January's qualifications all done by the 11th. How many of you, don't clap for that, that's what it should be. If you're clapping for that, you're like, wow. We want to adopt this as normal. Does that make sense? What if your organization, and that's in my RBP Open, by the way, what if in your organization, if all qualifications, you gotta make sure that, what if all the qualifications, yeah, it's true. What if the qualifications in your group all got done by the 10th? What would be the impact? That means for the rest of the month, they have one focus, production. The reason why most of us have a good month, vicious circle, good month, bad month, is because they're still chasing last month at the end of this month. You're building 2 months out because you're putting them in numbers, but you also got to qualify everybody. So you have people being pulled in 2 different directions. And that's when people get stressed out. I need one more IBO to qualify. It's the 31st day of the month. So instead of focusing on leveraging apps to close out big, you're like, I got to get apps, but I got to qualify because my TCAP. Very difficult. Let's ease our mind. Let's just be disciplined. First 10 days of the month, qualifications done. And now we go 100%. I'll tell you, my production is interesting because the first 10 days, I'll be like, I always tell T, I'm like, man, we're only dropping like 10 apps a day. What's going on? She's like, babe, don't worry. Qualifications are getting done. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. And then right away, just like clockwork, by the 13th, 14th, 15th, everything goes, bam, explosion. Like 15, 20, 25 apps every single day in the RVP Open because the team is already accustomed to the culture of qualifications done by the 10th. And that's all I talk about. From the first 10 days of the month, all the players involved, all my TCs, they already know how qualifications, what are we getting done, what's the number, what are you getting, what's your percentage rate? And we track all this, and it's so effective that's why we have like an 80%, 85% qualification rate every single month, no matter what, in a non-energy market. Does that make sense? So qualifications are key Wednesday end of the month, 10 day of every month. 5-day rule, you want to make sure you're tracking these things. Impact of qualifications, the speed of QTT determines everything. Obviously qualification, you may have to get your hands dirty, 3-way calls, get on the phone with the customers. I'm training launching today, and one of the big pieces I missed out the first time I trained it was the type of conversations you need to have at the launch with the outside customer. It should be the person that's doing the launch, the ETL or TC, that's on the phone with the outside customer on the spot, planting that seed to close out that customer. Does that make sense, guys? Very good. And qualifying within 24 hours, the way you do that is have the IBO that's getting launched, a new IBO, come to the launch with surveys already completed. How about that? Have them already get maybe 1 or 2 from the closest people. Don't have them try to sell anything yet, just get the survey filled out. So at the launch, we're not wasting time, trying to get a survey filled out. It's already done. Now we're going in to close the customer because we've already identified on the survey which one is going to be the customer we're going to sign up for the easiest service. Have flash phones on hand. I got a couple leaders, Andy. They show up to every launch with a duffel bag of flash phones. So it's not cash, but it's flash cash. Does that make sense? Yeah. And they'll have inexpensive phones, 25, 35. We have a certain price point that we know that on the spot we're going to qualify the IBO with. And of course, they can always upgrade their phone later if they wanted to, but we're prepared for the qualification. The worst thing to do is start chasing down qualifications. Last thing, endurance. How do you maintain momentum all throughout the month? Well, it's very important. There's rest times during the month. Now, obviously, your leader is going to tell you what it is that they feel is best for your organization. What we do is this. If the month ends on the 10th, I always tell my group from the 11th to the 14th, you can basically chill out a little bit. You know what I mean? That is your finish line. Take a breather. Take some time. Also, Saturdays after the training, we say, you know what? Take the rest of the Saturday off. Sunday is the best day to do PBRs, depending on what organization you're in. You know, so I'd rather have them go hard on Sunday and then not so hard on Saturday because the training is a training. Does that make sense so far? So if you understand that, you know, there are times in ACN where you don't have to be as intense. Sometimes if you're running on 10 all day, every day, you will burn out. So it's all about sharpening the axe. Does that make sense? Personal life impact. Some of us right now are in a financial situation where you're stressed out, and because you're financially stressed out, you're not inspiring to people. So I always say you have to have integrity in your personal finance. If right now you're barely getting by, you're showing up to every presentation thirsty. Thirsty is the equivalent of hungry and desperate. Desperate people never attract powerful people. So what you want to do is make sure your personal life's in order, whether it's finances. Some of you guys have toxic relationships. You're in a relationship with somebody you shouldn't be in because they don't understand the game you're a part of. And they'll never understand the game you're a part of. Now, I'm not saying get a divorce, but understand the impact it will have on your business. I can tell you there's a reason why my business got better after I got married. It's because my spouse is obviously somebody who understands the game and enhances my game. Does that make sense? So people are either going to lift you up or bring you down. You hear it all the time. Physical and mental health. It's important to work out. And be healthy. Because when you're healthy, guess what? Your body's fully functioning the way it's supposed to. Your energy levels are always high. You're going to be able to be that person that's inspiring to people, right? I mean, so I know a lot of organizations, and look, we like to have fun in Miami. Do we not have fun, guys? We have a lot of fun, but it's controlled. We don't go to the bar after every single PBR. We don't drink all day. I don't even drink at all. In fact, when I train at a national convention, I don't drink at all. And then when I'm done training, then we go in. Does that make sense so far? We celebrate, right? But we have to have a reason to celebrate. We don't celebrate every single day. Income, I believe the more money you make, the more motivated you are, so is your team. Here's a schedule of a person that's going to go full-time and go hard. Not that you guys should be doing this yet. But, I start my day at 7 a.m. From 7 to 10, personal time. Read, go to the gym, whatever I want to go do with my wife. Between 12 and 4, that's when we're doing phone calls, launches, qualifications. And then 6:30, 8:30, prime time, PBRs. The most important part of that day, I would say, is the beginning part of your day and the ending part of your day. PBRs, most important, the priority. Even if you're working all day, you can't do anything during the day, that's fine. But as long as you have at least a PBR going on, 6:30, 8:30, or just one, doesn't matter. And as long as you have new exposures happening every single day, you're pushing your business forward. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, I'm going to skip through this really quick. Okay, let's move forward over here. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about that either. All right, cool. So what I'll do now is I'll have somebody come up really quick, and you're TC, right? So I prefer TC. If you guys could come, one person come up, I'm going to map out your organization, and we're going to put this all together, this whole concept that I just talked about, and then we're going to give you like a tip, like an advice. Hey, if you do this is, let's see what we can create this month in your organization. So, okay, you're already walking up. Come on up, yeah. What's your name? You're from London, right? Yeah. Hey, look at the guy from London. Came all the way from London to be here, huh? Look at that. Abdul. Blowing it up. What position are you, man? TC, man. You're a TC? Okay, let's take this microphone. Can we use this microphone over here? Is that okay? All right. So, Abdul, you're a TC?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So we want to find out where you should be focusing your 80% of your time right now. So the 80-20 rule, right? How many lines do you have?
What do you mean?
How many teams?
4 organizations.
4 organizations. Okay, great. Okay, cool. And do you have any TCs in your group?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, cool. So right now, where are you working?
I'm working with these two at the moment.
These two at the moment. Okay, great.
They're both ETLs.
ETLs.
This person's an ETL as well. However,
this person?
Yeah,
okay.
this person right here.
Okay.
And this person's an ETT.
ETT, great.
And this person right here, he's got 2 legs completed, 200, 200.
Okay.
Done. And he's got like 60 points left.
60. Okay, great.
CC.
Cool.
And this person, he's like 2 legs are completed, and then 1 leg's 100 points left.
So complete, and 100 points left, right?
Yep.
Okay, great. Got it. Are you helping them in the third leg?
Yep.
Okay. So the tip is you don't want to finish someone to TC. That's the first tip. The last 100 points to go TC is where that person masters ACN. Because they're going to experience like the third leg blues, right? So you want them to really, and I got this from Matthew Ambaugh many years ago. Because I used to pop TCs myself. I'm going to get it done because it was all about my position. I got to hit RVP. I'm going to get it done. I'd pop TCs that weren't real. They didn't value it. They lost it. Does that make sense? So if you do it for them, they're never going to master it. So what I would actually do is let them finish it out themselves. They seem to be like mature leaders right now. They're ETLs, you're wrapping up a position. What I would do in your case is probably work in one of these organizations. Do any of them have any momentum going on right now?
Yep.
Okay, who has the most momentum?
What? These guys?
Yeah.
This person here, he's my cousin.
He's your cousin. He has the most momentum right here, okay?
Yep.
Cool. Where's the momentum?
On all 3 legs.
In all 3 legs.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we know momentum's not equal. So where's the newest people that have signed up in the last 2 weeks in the business?
On his 3rd leg.
Over here, because he's
Yeah.
finishing that up right now.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Are there any new people over here?
A few new people, but down at the bottom
That's
levels.
what we want. You always want to work
Yeah.
where the deepest legs are. Do you know the name? Okay, is there anybody who's new that has hit ETT or already has 2 or more IBOs in the last 7 days?
Yeah.
Who's that?
This person at the 8th level, his name's Abu Bakr.
What's his name?
Abu, just call him
Abdul?
Abu. Abu.
Okay, Abu?
Abu, as in the monkey from Aladdin.
Abu. Abu, I love Abu. I want an Abu. Okay, now he's not in the 3rd leg, right?
No.
Okay, so he's not in the 3rd leg. So he's still 120 points out.
Yep.
Realistically, if he has no momentum there, he's in a cross stage, it may take 30 days, depending on his skill set. Let him focus on that. You want to go with Abdul and blow him up. You want to go out there and make him, create that momentum, create that story, help him go ETD, do everything with him and maximize the momentum. And you know what that's going to do? It's going to force him, he'll be fear of loss, because now he's going to, I got to be a TC, I'm missing out on all this money, so now he's going to go really hard to get it done. And you know what, next month he may pop, but at least in the meantime, you created massive momentum in one specific part of your organization, so you want to have at least one focus. So 80% of your time could be spent over here. I mean, we'd have to look at all organizations to really determine that, but from this conversation, I let him run the 3rd leg, you run with Abu, blow up Abu, you're going to be the genie in the bottle for him, right, making his dreams come true, right? But what's also great is when he hits TC, here's the best part, when he hits TC, because can we agree, if he's trying to finish TC, he's not going to spend all the time over here. No. He's not going to go hard with Abu. He's trying to finish a position. You can't do both at the same time. You can't create production and a position at the same time. You got to give up one or the other for a moment, right? So what will happen in most cases is people leave this alone, so your talent, your end palm dies, so they become a palm N, which is a possibility momentum not, right? So yeah, they could have been, but we didn't take care of it, so it didn't happen. So what ends up happening is these guys fall off, and that could have been 10K this month. So let him do what he's going to do. You go blow up 10K, but here's the beauty. When he hits TC, you did 30 qualified in this group. Do you understand that if he did 30 qualified this month, he hits TC, guarantee that next month that momentum's going to carry over? And his first month as a TC, he's going to do some good numbers. Does that make sense so far? And that's going to create a massive spark, a massive fire for that whole organization. And the reality is you don't need to do this. You're not going to stay here forever. But if you just did this concept in each organization, man, pick a line in a month, one line in a line, go hard, 80-20 rule. So it's 20% of your time. We'll be cultivating the rest of the organization through conversation, mentorship, giving them guidance, giving them the play-by-play. How many guests do you have Saturday? How many PBRs do you have? You're talking to them, but you may not be doing the day-to-day stuff because you're over here with the one guy creating that story. Make sense?
So always work with the most momentum.
Excuse me?
Always work with the most momentum.
Always work where the most momentum is. You want to see, if you have a, see, what would you rather do? If you want to have a fire, can we agree? If you have a fire that's already burning, all you got to do is just add more wood to it versus trying to start a fire from scratch. Does that make sense? See, you want to create inspirational breakthrough production in your group. You want to go and drop massive amounts of business in one specific area. And the key is if you have people in there that are willing to play already, and if there's an ETT involved already, is there an ETL in the group? Or he's the only ETL?
No, there's 4 ETLs.
There's 4 ETLs above, so you get them involved. Yeah. Have the ETLs involved, get them all fired up because they're all chasing 7K. Could you imagine if you have 4 ETLs, you're working with the closest one to Abdul, so he has 7K potential, ETT has 3K potential. The other ETLs see what you're doing, they're gonna do the same exact thing. This guy could go TC with 4 ETLs the next month after he's a TC, all chasing 30 qualified. That TC could easily do 100 his first month. And then what? Psh, I'll be saying, Abuja, Abuja. All right? Does that make sense, bro?
Perfect sense, man.
You any questions for me?
I was gonna ask, for example, this person here.
Yeah.
Because he's new, I want to create momentum
Yeah,
on
he's
the 4th
crawling
leg.
right now. Yeah.
So would you say to just focus on this person solely, or
Well, let me ask you this. If you have 30-day opportunity, 30 days, right, to choose, a time frame, 30 days, where do you believe that you'll be able to get 30 qualified team trainers the quickest? That's where you go. He's crawling still. So here's what happens. Less time because there's no momentum there. You're still creating it, right? So you're still doing PBRs here and there. You may create momentum right away, but understand it's going to be a process. So what happens is most time here, put all your time here with Abu, less time with your 4th leg crawling, and then what ends up happening is this begins to get closer to TC. You start investing your time over here. So this is you avoid cutoff. So by the time your TC pops, you could already have walking momentum, meaning PBRs going on in leg 3 and 4. So you're not like going from TC top producing to a TC that no one knows your name. Like, who are you? Oh, I'm a TC. Oh, okay. Does that make sense, guys? Does that help? Any other question? We good?
Perfect sense.
All right, great. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. All right, so I hope it helps, guys. You know, my goal is not to, make anyone feel bad. Here's the reality of the game. We've all been there. Every person that is a producer was not a producer. Does that make sense? And I want to let you know that success is based on your results in this business. But here's the best part about results. Results are determined by your skills. So if results are determined by your skills and skills are learnable, that means technically skills lead to results, results lead to success. If skills are learnable, then so is your success. Every single person in this room today can take complete responsibility for their skills and in turn guarantee their success. Thank you guys so much.